So today's video is going to be about how certain things in your life are talking to you, especially like the doors and the things that you're trying to get through. So I feel like this is a little esoteric because I'm taking this from, again, an amalgamation of like a bunch of books and concepts that work for me, and from what I've learned and read over the past 13-ish years of my entrepreneurship journey. So yeah, like it's gonna be about how you know when to quit on things. And I feel like people don't talk about this a lot because a lot of times you'll hear founders be like, oh, I just kept going and going and going. But what do you do when it's actually not working for a really long time, right? So this is what today's video is gonna be about. So there's some background information that I think I have to share for this video to make sense, and it's called understanding the space of variations. So like in Sorry, that was my dog. But anyways, there's a physicist named Vadim Zeland who talks about the space of variations. And the idea is that every possible version of your life already exists. It's already written, it's already there, it's already waiting. So like your life is not being created moment to moment. You're just choosing different lifelines. Like think that you're on a guitar or a violin or any instrument with a string, and you're just jumping from string to string to string based off of the decision that you're making. So you're moving through life. You're selecting the line that you walk down based on your thoughts, your energy, the level of importance you attach to things. So like every major decision in your life can alter it. You can jump strings, for example, right? So like let's say your business model, your niche, your relationship, what you do in school, what you choose to eat, all of these can pretty much add up to it. So there's micro versions of the string, there's massive versions of it as at scale as well. And so like some of these doors, they open with a single touch when you make a decision on what you want to do. Others, it literally feels like they're locked up with like spikes on them with like reinforced steel, right? Like you're trying to break these door downs. So the major point here is that you have to understand that sometimes when a door is locked, the point isn't to keep pushing like hustle culture will make you think that you should. And the reason I say this is because, dude, fuck, who wants their life to suck for like 10, 15 years until their business works, right? Like, to be honest with you guys, I hate when people say that shit. And the reason I say that is because, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't delay gratification, but at what point do you actually say that, fuck it, it's not going to work, right? Like, is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? Is it fucking 20 years? What if you spend 40 years and you're dead, right? And, like, your business just never fucking works. So, like, what do you do in those situations? So the physicist Vadim Zeland, he talks about, like, when you really force something, it actually has the opposite effect. And you create what Zeland calls excess potential. So let me explain what excess potential is. When you want something really bad, you're sort of driving it away from you because you're desperate for it. And this works for money, relationships, like you name it, everything, right? So like, what does this resistance tell you? Think about the last time you were obsessed with making something work, or you're obsessed by accomplishing something, or obsessed about getting something. You're checking metrics every hour. You're doing all your due diligence like 24/7. You eat, sleep, dream about this thing. At what point do you realize that it's just not working out, right? And you know, like I always think about athletes and like their greatness stories, and like how Michael Jordan's like, I got cut off my junior high basketball team, or Kobe Bryant's like, I slept 4 hours and I did polyphasic sleeping. And I understand that, but there's a point where if you're not those people, it doesn't work out. And everybody knows, like, there's way more instances of shit not working out than there is of working out. Obviously, that's why there's such few people who are actually extremely uber successful, right? So what's the point here? The point is that Zeland was very clear about this. The higher the importance you place on something, the more the field will work to balance it out, which often means that things start going sideways. So like deals fall through, clients ghost you, the universe introduces friction, just not to punish you, but to rebalance the pressure that you've created. So there's this concept of having balance between everything, and not the type of balance that people talk about when they talk about like a work-life balance in terms of how desperate you are, in terms of your desperation for something. So when you move towards something with clarity but without desperation, when you operate from what Zeland calls outer intention rather than forcing reality through sheer willpower, doors open in ways that they don't open for others. And a lot of the times you can see like behemoths and trailblazers in industry where things just seem easy to them. And it's because like that thing is just meant for them, right? Like it's so difficult to explain this because it is a pretty esoteric concept. But I see this in business and industries as well. Like somebody starts a business and they're doing better in 2 years than somebody who's been in that industry or that space for 10 years. And it's like, dude, what's different? And that's the part that is really difficult to explain to people, and that's what I'm trying to do here. So you have to be willing to read what the doors are telling you based off of the options that you pick and the decisions that you make. And then you also have to understand the impact that the decisions that you make have. So how do we do this, right? There's signs, not mystical omens, but practical signs. So when you move towards your true lifeline, the one that actually belongs to you, the one that's going to work for you and you're going to excel at it, things begin to organize themselves. So obstacles still exist, but they're surmountable. They have a quality of teaching rather than blocking you. When you're on the wrong line, forcing a path that isn't yours, the obstacles have a different texture. They're repetitive. The same problem keeps showing up in a new costume, and it just genuinely fucking sucks, right? You have the same types of client, the same breakdowns happen all the time, the same ceiling that you can't seem to break through no matter how hard you work. So that repetition is the signal. And I've noticed this a lot of times. The problems that I used to have in business, in my specific business, are extremely different now than what they used to be a year or 2 years ago. Because once these doors started unlocking for me, they don't lock again, right? They're just open for you. So the universe doesn't send you the same lesson once, it escalates it until you learn it. And I think it's very important that you learn to listen to these lessons. So like if you apply this to business specifically, because this is where most men get it wrong, you start something, you put money into it, you put time into it, your identity into it, and it's not moving, or it's moving slowly enough that every month feels like a grind rather than a build. The question that you need to ask, and that's uncomfortable, is this door locked because I need to push harder, or is it locked because it was never mine to walk through? And they're completely different situations. They require completely different responses as well. So how do you know? And there's a book that I'm actually in the middle of reading right now. It's called The Way of the Superior Man by Deida. And I hope I pronounced his last name right there. If I didn't, sorry. But The Way of the Superior Man talks about how you should be living at your edge in order to feel like you're alive. So there's this concept of you're either growing or you're shrinking. There is nothing in this world that's actually maintaining that's maintaining itself. So pretty much Deida talks about living at your edge. It's this place where you're genuinely tested, genuinely growing, genuinely uncomfortable in the right way. Not like uncomfortable, not fake hard, not I'm doing this because it feels cool or it sounds cool or it impresses other people. It's pretty much that you're actually at the frontier of your capability and your possibilities, and you're pushing the boundaries just a little bit, not beyond the point where it's burnout and you're just stressed out and you feel like you can't do it anymore. And that's what the superior man needs to do, right? You don't shrink from your edge. You have to be pushing at your boundaries at all times. And the part that people skip is that he doesn't mistake stubbornness for purpose. So at a certain point in your business, I think everybody who's even successful has gone through this, where they really have to sit down and actually see if it's working for them or it's not, whether that's like a year into business, 2 years into business, 5 years, 10 years, whatever story you've told yourself essentially. And the point is that there's a difference between a man who is on his mission and faces real resistance and a man who is attached to looking like he's on a mission and can't let go of the wrong path because his ego is going to get bruised. And it's interesting because Deida talks about how one is a masculine direction and the other is masculine rigidity. So you can get both of these confused with thinking, I'm a man, I'm going to figure this shit out. Like nobody else is going to help me. This is what everybody had to go through. And while that might be true and they look identical from the outside, there's a test that he suggests to know the difference. And the test is that, is your path expanding you or is it contracting you? So for example, a door that's yours, even if it's hard, has a quality of expansion to it. You're growing, you're being asked to become more, and you're stretching into something larger than who you are. So every year you're becoming a better version of yourself, or even every month. Man, this can work at such a micro level that it could be every hour if you really tracked every single metric that you could. So the door that isn't yours, even though it'll look impressive, has a quality of contraction. You're getting smaller, more cynical, more defensive, more rigid. You're protecting an identity rather than building a life. And I think that's really important. So now, how do you know when you should push versus when you should pivot? And I say this as a person who owns 3 distinct businesses, 2 of which are in the construction space. Here's the practical framework, and burn this into your decision making so it helps you out. Push harder when the resistance is about your skill level, not the direction. So like, for example, if it's something about you learning something, make it harder on yourself, make it better, make yourself do it faster and quicker. There's a saying that Navy SEALs have, or I guess even SWAT, first responders, that slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And the point is that even though the beginning and the end seem like they're on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's required for you to get to this point. So if every obstacle teaches you something, you should be going forward with it. If you still feel a pull and it's kind of just a difficulty, but it's about your skill set, you should still be pushing forward. If the friction is external, like market timing, competition, resources, and not internal, like misalignment or chronic dread or being burnt out or loss of meaning, and you can clearly see the door, you're just not through it yet, keep pushing, dude. Because like all of that is normal. And every successful man you ever meet, anybody who's accomplished anything, honestly, forget about even man, woman, whatever. If it's nothing to do with you, keep pushing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's literally not destroying you, keep going. And then this is when you should pivot. If you've been solving the same problem for like 12 plus months and there's been no real movement, pivot, dude. And I'm not saying you have to abandon the business, but pivot to maybe testing something else. In one of the videos previously, I talked about how I do it every month. So if something doesn't work every month, there are some things that you have to give 3, 5, 6 months for it to work, especially when it comes to like marketing and specific things in business. Maybe I'll make a video about that as well. But you know, if you're not moving forward, and it's the same issue, it's the same core problem, like sales not working, marketing's not working, it's been like 12 plus months, move on, dude. You need to switch something, right? You have to switch the process, or maybe it's the business that's the issue, right? Because it's not your door. If the path requires you to become someone you don't respect to succeed, skip it. There's a lot of shitty ways to make money in this world. Don't be one of those people, dude. Honestly, like, just don't. If you feel relief when you imagine walking away, and I know people like this, and it sucks because it's so hard and difficult to explain to them. Like, I know people who are so obsessed and attached to the idea of entrepreneurship that it's like mentally just ruining their life. And I did a leash lesson on this as well, where I was talking about a contractor who genuinely doesn't like what he was doing. And if you don't like it, dude, the second somebody passionate shows up, they blow you out of the fucking water. So if you feel relief when you're not working or you're not doing whatever the fuck you're supposed to be doing, dude, leave it alone, man. Life is too short to do shit that you hate, honestly, especially if it's about fucking money. If the wins feel hollow and the losses feel more like signs, and if the losses feel like they're damaging you more than the wins encourage you, pivot. Again, it's not aligning, dude. Like, when I win in business, it's a high that I have never experienced from anything else, honestly. And it happens so often. And that's how I know that the door that I'm going through is working for me, right? And if you're staying because of sunk cost, not because of conviction, because you believe in your product or your service or whatever you're doing, again, pivot, dude. Because again, life is so short to half-ass your belief. Life is so short to try to convince people to purchase something or to do something when you don't fucking believe in it. And you know, in transurfing terms, pivot is not surrender. It's reducing important and allowing yourself to slide to a more aligned lifeline. Just think about it like that. It's not a failure. And in terms of like how David talks about in The Superior Man, is it's trusting your own deeper knowing over the noise of the ego and external validation. And I say this because, you know, I've had conversations with people, especially recently, where it seems like almost everybody I run to, like every second person or so, is just telling me how their business isn't working, or it feels like nothing that they're doing is right, or they don't know what they're doing wrong. And it's like, bro, it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's just that you're not doing anything right either. So like, why the fuck would it work out? It's like going to the gym and doing a bunch of random ass fucking exercises and not tracking shit. And you're just like, why the fuck am I not getting results? Well, dude, it's probably because you're not training the muscle that you should be training. You're probably doing random shit with the wrong form. You're inconsistent, and like, you're probably not doing the minimum effective dose to actually see anything, right? It's like, I can't remember where I was reading this in a business book, but there was somebody who's like a really successful businessman, and I think I read this book like 5-6 years ago, and he was talking about like the number one issue that he sees with companies when recession hits is that they start toning down their marketing and their ad spend. When the truth is, you should be doing the flip. When the economy is contracting, you want to be on the top of people's minds. Some of the biggest companies in the world were founded and blossomed in economic recessions and economic downturns. So how the fuck can you explain those if nobody's buying and the whole industry is shit, right? Like, people always say this about luxury goods as well. And I was actually having this conversation with somebody today. Like, brand is so important, and I've made a video about this as well, and maybe I'll make another one another day. But How the fuck can you explain people who are spending 4, 5, 10 grand on Louis Vuitton bags or 30 grand on Hermes bags and, you know, like 25K on Rolexes, 50K on Rolexes, 300, 400, 500,000 on Ferraris and Lamborghinis? How come they're not affected by an economic downturn? Like, dude, because there are things in this world that, because they're done and made with so much conviction and what they represent is so important to the people who are purchasing them, that the economy will not stop them. Like, I promise you. And then there's this whole concept of self, which I'll go over in another video, and I did talk about in the last video that I uploaded, about like why smoking isn't actually an issue of habit, it's an issue of self-concept. Same way obesity is an issue of self-concept as well. And maybe I'll make a larger video on how that's impacted my life and changed my life in general for pretty much everything, not even just business, but like health, being lean, just like the feeling of who I am to myself and that importance to myself. If you're doing something because you genuinely enjoy it, the chances of you succeeding at it is much better than you doing something that you don't enjoy at all or you don't like doing. That energy, that full commitment with zero desperation is what reality transurfing calls the correct relationship for outer intention. And it's what opens doors that force could never open. So like, let's zoom out for a second. This isn't necessarily about business. It's kind of just about a lifestyle mindset. And like, this works for relationships, health, and like your body. If you're trying to force a connection, you're kind of increasing excess potential. The right relationship doesn't require you to abandon your edge. Or like in terms of your health and body, some training protocols are just wrong for your body. Pushing through signals that something is breaking and not building is the same mistake. Listen to what's expanding you, not shrinking you. Same thing with your location, your city, your environment, right? Every place has its own lifelines running through it. Some environments amplify who you're becoming, others suppress it. Notice how you feel inside them, and then that's the data that you should be choosing what you should be doing off of. Another example of this is like your inner circle. People are also like these pendulums that swing and can have excess potential. Some people pull you towards your highest line. Others anchor you to who you used to be or to even a worse version of yourself, right? You don't abandon people callously, but the superior man knows his inner circle must be chosen, not inherited. So like, ease is not laziness and friction is not always growth. And I think it's very important for you to be in tune with yourself to be able to differentiate between both. So here's what I want to leave you with. There's a line of life, a version of your story where things don't feel like you're at war against anything. But it's not also easy and it's not handed to you, but it does feel aligned. And I think it's important to find that alignment where the work is hard, but it feeds you, where the challenges stretch you, but they don't hollow you out, where the door doesn't swing open immediately, but every step forward feels like you're moving with something rather than against it. At a certain point, you should feel like you're swimming with the current, not against it, dude. And that door exists, but you need to believe in it first. And reality transurfing says that it's already there, written in the space of variations, waiting for you to align with it. So the way of the superior man says that you'll find it by staying true to your deepest direction and purpose, not the one that your ego chose or the one that looks impressive, but the one that calls to you even when everything external says no. So like, stop forcing, get quiet, ask yourself honestly, which door in my life right now swings open easily? And I think that's the one that you should honestly lead into. And which doors are causing you to bleed in multiple different ways, right? Money, energy, your mindset, health, happiness. Chances are you already know the answer by the end of this video. So go walk through the door that you need to. See ya.